Good afternoon, guys. My name is Alina Sheltsova. I'm an immigration attorney from Brooklyn, New York. And in today's live presentation, I'm going to briefly update you on the most recent immigration news. And we're going to talk about upcoming changes, possible changes, what's going to happen with immigration reform. And of course, I'm going to share with you my thoughts on that. So thank you very much for joining. Hi, Robert. Please comment with where you're watching from. Prepare your questions because after this live, I'm going to answer some of you guys' questions. Always happy to see you. By the way, again, thank you for watching. Hi, Mike. Hi, Shitesh. And let's start. Well, first of all, you could have seen, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, the news about COVID restrictions. COVID restrictions that are going to stay in place for people who are trying to enter the United States using the land border. Hi, Zach. Hi, Prakash. Hi, Evelyn. Nice to see you guys. And those restrictions that Biden administration promised to lift are going to stay in place as it was just announced, meaning that a person may be turned down and may be not allowed to come to the United States because of health emergency or what's called Title 42 public health proclamation or public health exception that states that anyone basically can be turned down at the border if the government believes they present public health concern. And of course, it's disappointing because this administration promised that they're not going to use Trump's administration restrictions for immigrants. And of course, it's disappointing because it seems with that restriction, the restriction on visas in consulates are going to stay in place, meaning that the consulates also not going to reopen full force as we hoped. And this, what I called soft ban on immigration is just going to continue. Now what we're facing is basically there is no a travel ban proclamation. We do not have specific groups of people that cannot come, but basically case-by-case basis, we don't even know how those decisions are going to be made. People cannot come to the United States, including people who are family members of somebody who lives in the United States, and all because of, as administration cited, because of COVID. If you recall, there was a lawsuit to resolve the situation with fiancé visas, where private attorneys basically had to file a lawsuit against the Department of State, asking court to force consulates to start issuing visas at certain locations, fiancé visas, and I'm sure it helped. I'm sure it helped people who were part of that lawsuit, but globally, the situation unfortunately has not changed. And now we see that this administration is basically going back to what Trump administration was using in handling immigrants at the border. Of course, we're also, we may be seeing this situation as a result of ongoing negotiations regarding immigration reform. Well, one of the points that Republicans are trying to use is that they're claiming that the situation at the border is very unsafe. And perhaps Biden administration, just as a form of cooperation and a form of action to show that they are listening to the Republicans, placing those restrictions, or rather maintaining those restrictions in place, restrictions on entry to the United States. Also, if you been following the immigration news, you also probably saw that the Vice President Harris stated that she's going to release on Thursday a comprehensive plan as to how to address the migration from the Central American countries. And from what I understand, they're blaming the climate change on that as one of the reasons as to why people are coming and keep coming to the United States, and why we have the highest surge of immigrants at the border since 2000. That's what I read in the news. I'm not sure what the correct numbers are, how many people are actually coming, but we all know that it's not looking pretty. And unfortunately, The system is basically overwhelmed. And it's also, I feel that the restrictions on legal immigration contribute to this madness, to be honest, because people basically get separated with their families and they just do not know what to do. So that's what's going on in the global politics regarding immigration. No action on immigration reform, just talks so far, guys. Do not know. I see some questions about essential employees, and I'm going to get back to the specific topic a little bit later. I just wanted to share some updates regarding DACA. First-time DACA applicants, guys, for those of you who have filed your cases, and then this great decision came about prohibiting DHS from granting your applications are going to be placed on hold. On hold, meaning that nothing is going to happen to your applications. You're not going to get refund of your $4.95 fee that you paid, but they're going to stay in the system until a new judge, a new court would make a decision as to what's going to happen with DACA. And of course, as you may be aware, the Texas judge's opinion on DACA, when Judge Hannon said that DACA is illegal, is going on appeal. The government is going to be filing an appeal of that decision. Of course, it takes some time for them to file it. But so far, those pending applications will not be granted. They will be on hold. Very important. Unfortunately, it means that employment authorizations are going to be on hold too for the first-time DACA applicants. For those of you who already had DACA and filed a renewal, well, currently nothing to worry about. You should be able to get your renewals and your work permits and your travel permits, okay? So if you already had DACA approved or you're filing for the renewal, you should not be part of that order. Very, very important. One more update regarding COVID and courts. Courts are being reopened, guys. Some courts are still semi-closed, but you need to check with your attorney whether or not you have to come in. Rule of thumb, if you're on a calendar and your lawyer did not tell you not to come in, you must come in. When you're coming in now, you will have to wear masks, okay? And the judge or court personnel may ask you if you've been vaccinated if you're not wearing a mask. So just make your life easier, bring a mask with you, okay? You don't need to go to the stress, being threatened of being thrown out of the court. Immigration judges have discretion to limit the audience in their rooms and also how they would like to handle their calendars. It means that you also have to follow individual judges' rules. Some judges would like to have all master hearings online or telephonically, and some judges would like personal appearance and they would like to have a formal motion from your attorney if you do not want to show up in court. And why is it that you do not want to show up? So you have to follow all those procedures. Why? Because you do not want to be found as a no-show. Because if you're found as a no-show in court, you have an automatic deportation order against you. And even though it's true that you can deal with it within the next 30 days, you don't want to be in this situation. So just follow the protocols. Make sure your lawyer tells you whether or not you have to show up, and always have the mask on you. It just makes your life easier. Whether or not you believe in it, please you don't need this extra stress in your life. All right, so now, because I was speaking very, very fast, I'm going to answer some of you guys' questions. Let me see. Hi, PA. Hi, Pembe. How am I doing? I'm doing fine, thank you. Hi, Papa. Overstaying visa from Cincinnati, right? Ohio. Hi, Mike. Hi, Walter. Oh, you're welcome. Hi, Markane. I applied for work permit 8 months and still didn't get it. How long should I wait? What is your eligibility for the work permit? Okay, it depends on your eligibility for the work permit. And if you are, for example, asking for the work permit based on asylum pending eligibility, you should really become a member of those groups, ASAP, and what was the second one? I forgot. But what happens is that only for members of those groups, the government has an obligation for the first time applicants to issue work permit within 30 days. But if you're not member of those groups, There are two groups, ASAP, and the second one I forgot, CASA, I believe, CASA. And if you're not a member of those groups, the government does not have any obligation to issue a work permit to you within a certain period of time. In fact, the current administration confirmed that. The rule started or was proposed during the Trump administration, and guess what? Just today, basically, or yesterday, the new DHS secretary stated that, yes, we are confirming this rule, that we do not have an obligation to issue a work permit to asylum applicants within a certain period of time. So I'm not surprised, to be honest, that it takes so long, but there is one thing that you can do. You can write them a letter asking for your work permit, explaining why you need it, explaining the hardships that you are facing, so-called request to expedite. You have to attach documents proving that perhaps you're going to lose your house or your job, or it's very difficult for you to pay your bills, and try it. That's the best thing that you can do. Hi, Robert. Can I work in New York with my work permit and adjustment of status receipts? Robert, if you have your work permit, you can work anywhere you want, because the work permit puts you in the same level as U.S. citizen or green card holder in terms of the work eligibility. Of course, there will be certain positions that under the law you cannot hold. Positions, let's say you would like to work for FBI, that require to be a U.S. citizen. But if you have a properly issued work permit, you cannot be discriminated against, and you can apply for any position that does not require special immigrant status, like U.S. citizenship. Legitimately requires that, okay? We're not talking about if the company, for example, says, well, we're hiring only U.S. citizens and it's a restaurant. They cannot do that. They have to hire anybody who is qualified for the position. Of course, if you are a cook and you're applying for a construction position, they can say, listen, you don't know what you're going to be doing here. But otherwise, you can work anywhere. Hi, Dinesh. Hello from San Francisco. Ooh, how is the weather in San Francisco? I think it's cold, right? Yeah, San Francisco usually during this time of the year is like 54 degrees, but I may be wrong. Hi, Umang. How likely to add essential workers in reconciliation budget, and what will be required to prove yourself essential worker? Good question. If the reconciliation immigration provision is going to be put forward, and I had tons of videos about that, what's going on? They're not sure if it can be a part of the reconciliation. There are people who argue for it, and there are people who argue against it. They're using 2005 example when immigration provisions were made a part of the reconciliation bill. And Republicans basically saying, if you're going to pass immigration reform through reconciliation, you're going to undermine our rights, our minority party rights to fight you in the Senate, in Congress regarding those provisions. For that reason, Democrats may be reluctant to take this responsibility upon themselves and move forward with the immigration plan as a part of the reconciliation bill. And also, there is one person who is arbitrator who is supposed to decide whether or not immigration reform can be made a part of the reconciliation bill. It's very interesting. So basically, the fate of this immigration reform will depend on one person, from what I understand. And I'm not sure if she's going to, McDonough, I believe her last name, a member of Senate, if she's going to make this decision or not. But this is what I read in the press, and I'm not sure if that's going to be the truth. But if the reconciliation is going to take place, if the immigration provisions are going to be put in the reconciliation bill, I believe the essential workers will be part of that. Why? Because several powerful Democrats who were talking about this proposal confirmed that. They said that they're focusing on essential workers, DACA, TPS, and farm workers. How will one be able to prove that he or she is an essential worker? Well, we have a clue from the Essential Workers Citizenship Act. Basically, your employer will have to sign attestation that you did work for them. And of course, some employers will be like, I don't want to sign anything. I employed you, you didn't have documents. And this is why the Essential Worker Citizenship Act had a provision in it saying that if employer will attest for you that you did work for them, they will be not facing exempt from any liability for employing you when you didn't have employment documents, employment authorization documents. So it's like a encouragement for employers to go forward and attest for you. All right. And if they refuse to attest for you and you did work for them, they're going to face penalties. So there will be, again, an encouragement for employers to tell the truth that they did employ you. This is how. And I strongly suspect that there will be other ways, just traditional other legal ways to do that. Perhaps you can present records, payments that you received. If you file taxes, again, guys, if you are making money in the United States, whether or not you have status, you have to pay taxes, or at least try to do that. If you don't have Social Security number, you can consult with your accountant, see if you can get what's called a tax ID number and submit taxes that way. And I'm not a tax attorney, it's not a tax advice, but it's just something like a tip that you really should look into. Why? Because it's going to, tax returns are helping you in various ways. First of all, of course, you comply with your tax obligations. Second, you can use tax returns very often to prove your physical presence in the United States for various purposes, okay? Third, again, to prove that you did work. And on your tax return, sometimes you actually put your occupation there. So it also potentially may help you to prove as to what is that you did, okay? How did you make your money? So I hope that answers the question. Bottom line, nobody, guys, knows what's going to happen, apart maybe from Charles Schumer and some people in Congress and the Senate. Immigration lawyers certainly do not have any information beyond what's public information, okay? It's impossible to have that. We can just only guess. We can use what's called educated guess using the information that we have. Perhaps the only difference between me and you, perhaps, is that I just get all this information from different sources every single day and I read it, and that's how I can process it maybe faster, okay? But this is the only difference between me and you in this particular situation. And of course, maybe I'm perhaps more active, even not given with various initiatives. Not specifically me, I'm talking about an example immigration lawyer. Is there any immigration reforms with this coming infrastructure bill? Oh, yes, we just talked about that. So perhaps we're going to have something. My green card, hi, Evelyn. My green card can be denied if my husband was in prison years ago for something he did when he was 17 years old. I have my interview in 2 weeks, and I'm afraid about the question in Form I-45. Well, Form I-45 is your form, sweetie. It's not your husband's form. So I'm not sure why his conviction would be relevant to you. Now, if I am correct, your husband is a US citizen and he did some time in prison. Most likely, it should not affect you at all unless he was in prison for some offense that may potentially bring you under what's called Adam Walsh Act, when his I-130 is not going to be approved for you. Okay, that's the only relevance his conviction may have on your case. Otherwise, what he did does not reflect on you, just so you know. Hi, Giva, permanent resident in United States with no crime record, but my spouse is in Africa. Can I use my green card to file for her from Africa to come here? Of course you can. Permanent residents can start sponsoring their spouses using I-130 form just like US citizens. The difference will be that usually does take a little bit longer for I-130 by a permanent resident to be approved, opposed to I-130 filed by a US citizen. I do not know why, even though it shouldn't be happening this way, especially at this time when priority dates are current. But absolutely, you should be able to, you first file I-130, you wait for the approval, and then your case is going to be transferred to the National Visa Center. And in National Visa Center, you will have to submit additional documents. Your spouse will have to pay immigrant visa fee and affidavit of support fee. you guys will have to submit Form DS-260, rather your spouse will have to do that. And once everything is in place, all the documents are in place, the National Visa Center is going to send your case to a consulate, and consulate is going to give your spouse a date for the interview. Well, that's how it should work, okay? And that's how it's been working before COVID. And during the COVID, it works like that too, just very, very slowly, okay? How far with Agricultural Workers Essential Act, Promise Act immigration reform? Guys, to my knowledge, I know that certain pieces of legislation, certain proposals are traveling through different committees. You can actually check their status online. They're going to tell you what was the last action undertaken. But right now, they're arguing over if immigration can be a part of the reconciliation. So they have to answer this. It's rather a legal question, not a factual question. It's more like a legal question if it's possible to squeeze immigration reform as a part of the reconciliation bill. And here is the answer, I think. If it's not going to be a huge comprehensive immigration reform that will have something like Biden proposed, if it's going to be what's called a piecemeal reform, they should be able to do that, all right? Piecemeal reform meaning for certain groups of people. All right, let me see. Am I here about 20 years? I'm available, anything. Hi, Amro. Just because you're here for 20 years, automatically, without more, will not be qualifying you for anything. But if something happened to you during this 20 years, if you have family members, if you, God forbid, were a victim of a crime, if you filed for anything before, you may be, depending also what country you're from. Are you going to qualify for TPS? It depends, really. We'll not be able to tell you. But just because you've been here for a long time, usually automatically it doesn't give you any rights to file for anything. Hi, Golden. Hello, attorney. How can a Haitian migrant worker get help with the paperwork to apply for TPS if they have no money to hire a lawyer? Are there any free services to help in Georgia? I will not be able to tell you if specifically there are free services in Georgia, but I suspect that there are. There is an organization that at least I know of, it's called Catholic Charities, that provides free assistance to immigrants, okay, free assistance. You also can see if legal aid in where you live has an immigration division. They also may help. Legal aid, it's like free lawyers that are paid by the government, and nothing is really free. It may be free to you, but somebody pays for that person usually, unless a person is a volunteer, right? So that's what you should start with: legal aid and Catholic Charities. Catholic Charities, yes. Hi, Lahorka. Hi, Satish. I have applied for a U visa last year, August. When can I get a work permit under U visa? Guys, to get a work permit with a U visa pending under the new rules that were just announced, you first have to receive a letter about that from USCIS. You cannot just file for it because you already have a U visa pending. So you have to be patient and you have to wait for that letter. This is what the USCIS explained to us. Excuse me. All right. Hi, Raista. I have received EAD for my VAWA case, but still no approval for 2 months. How can I get my approval notice? Don't need to be worried about your approval notice. It's going to come soon, trust me. If you received your work permit EAD under 31st category, it means that your case was approved because it can be given only to those who get an approval. Just be patient, okay? They're overwhelmed. They have a lot of things going on. The Vermont Service Center was moving, okay? So just wait. It's normal. It's normal that your approval notice is going to come a little bit later. Hi, Forest Lake. Will the Farmworkers reformation be passed in reconciliation? If so, what is the number of years? Well, here is the thing, guys. If something is going to be included in the reconciliation, even though, let's say, I have some information as to how many hours you have to show you've been working as a farm worker and so on and so forth, it does not mean that my knowledge or what I know so far about that Farm Workers proposed reform act is actually going to be the act that's going to be included in reconciliation. Because from experience, I can tell you, all those proposals get modified before they get adopted. But what they've been proposing so far, they don't talk about the years, they talk about number of hours you have to be working within a certain period of time as a farm worker. Well, it's actually years or months, but rather like full-time employment or number of hours within a certain time period, because it's more precise measurement than years. And we're going to see as to what specifically qualifications will be in that specific proposal. Because in the past proposals, I'm citing from the Farm Workers Modernization Act, they were operating by hours within a certain period of time before the proposal was proposed. Okay, so we're going to see what's going to happen. How elegant lady, sell you. Hello, can you file I-751 within 2 months before expiration? I-751, a petition to remove conditions from permanent residence, can be filed either within 90 days, and 2 months will be that period, if you're filing jointly with your spouse, 90 days prior to the expiration of the petition, or it can be filed at any time if you're filing it based on a waiver. At any time, if you're filing it based on a waiver of joint filing. Waiver of joint filing happens when you entered the marriage in good faith, but it resulted in divorce. When you entered the marriage in good faith, but your spouse was abusive to you, you became a victim of the abuse and battery, battered spouse. Or if you can demonstrate that if your application to remove condition is not granted, you're going to suffer extreme hardship. All right. So yes, I guess the short answer is yes. Hi, Morkane. I'm an asylum seeker. I did my biometrics on November 30th. Then I applied for work permit. I thought it's going to take 6 months to get it, but I still didn't get it. What happens is that it's not about how long you're waiting for it. It is about when you're applying for it. If you're an asylum seeker, there are rules about that. You can file for the work permit if you're not a member of certain organizations only after a year of your asylum application being pending and it has no connection to your fingerprints. It rather than take the date when you file for your asylum application when it was accepted, and you have to wait for a year, or you can file for the work permit 180 days after you submitted your application if you're a member of ASAP and that other organization, I believe it's CASA, CASA. All right, then you'll be considered to be a class member of the lawsuit that challenged the 365-day rule regarding the work permits for asylum seekers. All right, so that's what's going on. So you should check when exactly you submitted your case. If you submitted it prior to those deadlines, your application will be denied and you probably have to prepare for refiling. Hi, and more. Why Central American immigrants deport now? Please reply. Why is they being deported now? Because the current administration decided that certain people will be vetted at the border and a procedure of expedited removal is going to be used against them. A procedure has been around for decades. That's nothing new. It's just that the fight over how to handle the search of migrants, that's what recently has been discussed. So Trump administration was detaining people, vetting them, and then deporting them. Biden administration said first that they're going to allow anybody to file for asylum and place the families into detention centers, okay, and then deal with them. And now they're saying that because there are so many people, they're again going to use expedited removal at the border, meaning that they quickly vet you. If you don't say anything that looks like you may qualify for asylum, they expeditiously remove you at the border. That's what's going on with it. I guess they haven't found any better solution. That's why. Hi, Akalanka. I have a pending asylum case since 2015. I never get interview. Okay. I have girlfriend. Very good. I want to marry her, but I do not if I can do it. Also, my status changed after my travel document. Please give me an idea. I think you should speak with your attorney if you can adjust or not. All right. If you enter the United States without inspection, then you may have some legal issues there for adjustment. So that's, I think, will be the main issue. If your girlfriend, your future wife is a US citizen or not, right? That will be relevant. But generally speaking, a person who can adjust and has asylum pending status and now is married to a US citizen has no bars on adjustment otherwise, may choose an adjustment of status. Yes. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for watching and joining. I've been with you for about 30 minutes now. I'm very happy that you all joined and you all watched. Please share this video if you can so that others may find some helpful information as well. Like it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And again, thank you very much for commenting, for joining, for watching, and I hope to see you soon.